Welcome to Wealth Hustle 247 podcast, your trusted guide to financial literacy, business innovation, and entrepreneurial success. Learn how to grow your wealth, make informed decisions, and turn your ideas into profitable ventures.
Tired of money myths holding you back? In this episode, we're money myth busting, building wealth and financial freedom with real strategies that work. Let's set the record straight.
All right, so you ready for this? Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, your personal finance stuff.
Oh, this should be good.
You sent over these excerpts from a paper. It's called Money Myth Busting, Uncovering the Hidden Truths to Wealth Creation.
Catchy, right.
Yeah, it does sound interesting, but I gotta admit, when I first saw it, it looked kind of intimidating. Like, are we going to be doing homework or something?
Yeah, it is pretty dense.
But we're going to break it down. We'll pull out the really good stuff, the stuff that can actually help, level up your finances.
Exactly. We're going to find those golden nuggets, make it worthwhile.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. This paper starts off by, tackling these money myths,
This stuff we've all heard a million times.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe we haven't really stopped to think about, is this really true? First one, right out of the gate. Money is the root of all evil. Ooh, that's a heavy one. What do you think about that?
Well, actually, the authors of the paper point out that that's kind of a misinterpretation. It's not money itself, it's the love of money.
Oh, okay.
It's more about how we relate to it.
Right, so it's not like this inherently bad thing.
Yeah.
It's how we use it,
Yeah.
what we prioritize. Okay, I see.
Like anything else, it can be used for good or bad.
It's like, I love my comfy sweatpants.
Yeah.
But, they're not exactly appropriate for every situation.
Perfect analogy. And the paper actually uses some pretty great examples. Like, think about Bill Gates, right? Or Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
They obviously have tons of money, but they use it to help with huge problems. Poverty, disease,
So they're using it as a force for good.
Exactly.
Not hoarding it all for themselves.
Okay.
Okay, so we tackled that first myth.
One down, many to go.
Let's move on to another one that I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to investing, really get stuck on. You know this one. You need money to make money. How much truth is there to that?
I think this is one a lot of people believe, but the paper goes right at that myth. They say that your skills, your ability to innovate, and, your work ethic, those can be more valuable than a bunch of money when you're starting out.
Really? So it's not all about, having a trust fund then?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
You can build real wealth starting with almost nothing.
Wow, that's kind of inspiring.
Yeah, it is. And they use some really good examples in the paper. Think about, Steve Jobs starting Apple in his garage, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic story.
Or Oprah. She came from nothing and built this incredible career. So, those are examples of people who didn't start rich.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty incredible success stories. But, let's get real. What about debt?
Debt. The big D word.
Is it always a bad thing? Because it feels like everyone's got some kind of debt, right? Student loans, mortgages, it's everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's a reality for most people. But the interesting thing is, this paper doesn't just say, all debt is bad.
Oh.
They talk about good debt versus bad debt.
Oh, I've heard of that, but I'm not really sure I understand the difference.
Okay, so good debt is like an investment, something that will probably increase in value over time or generate income for you, like a mortgage, for instance. You're going into debt, but you're buying a property. Ideally, it's going to be worth more later.
So it's kind of like using debt strategically to build wealth.
You got it. Or like a business loan, if you're starting a business. If it's successful, it makes money, right? So that could be good debt too.
Okay, so what makes debt bad then?
Bad debt is the kind that, doesn't really help you in the long run. It just weighs you down. You're not really getting anything out of it. Think about all those impulse buys on your credit card.
Yeah, don't remind me. Those can be painful.
Yeah, those are usually bad debt. You end up paying a ton of interest. So it's not about never going into debt. It's about being smart about it.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Using it as a tool to build your wealth
Yeah.
instead of letting it, drain your resources.
You got it. Now let's tackle one more myth that I think can be really discouraging, especially for people who are new to investing.
Okay, hit me.
This one. Investing is only for the rich. It feels like you need a ton of money, right? And a financial advisor to even get started.
Oh, yeah, totally. It seems like it's all about, Wall Street and hedge funds, and regular people are just left out.
Right, but the authors of this paper totally challenge that idea. They talk about how investing has changed so much in the last few years.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's way more accessible now, with these micro investing apps, robo-advisors.
You can just start investing with a little bit of money.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't need to be a millionaire.
That's amazing. So what are the big takeaways from all this myth busting?
I think the biggest one is that your financial situation right now, it doesn't have to define your future. Wealth creation isn't just for some elite group. It's about understanding the rules of the game, making good choices, and taking advantage of all the tools that are out there, no matter where you're starting from.
I like that. So what's next on the agenda for this deep dive? What else does this paper talk about?
Well, now that we've busted some of these common money myths, the paper goes into some of the key principles for building wealth.
Okay, so we've cleared out the bad information. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. All right, let's do it. What's the first principle we should unpack?
Well, it's something we've already kind of touched on, the power of compounding.
Oh, yeah, compounding. It's one of those things that I hear about but never really understood. It sounds like magic, honestly.
Yeah. It's often called, like, the eighth wonder of the world. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Let me give you an example. Imagine you invest just $50 a week, like the cost of a couple fancy coffees.
Okay, I can picture that.
And you do that consistently for 30 years. And let's say you get an average return of like 7% per year. Any guesses on how much that could grow to?
Couple $1,000.
Way more. Over $230,000.
Whoa, really?
That's the power of compounding. You're consistently investing, even small amounts, and time does the work for you.
Okay, that is impressive. Makes those fancy coffees seem a lot less appealing suddenly.
Right.
So it's about playing the long game then.
Exactly. So what other principles do they talk about? Well, there's diversification. Remember that saying about not putting all your eggs in one basket?
Oh, yeah. My grandma used to say that all the time.
Well, it applies to investing, too. You don't want to put all your money into just one thing, like just stocks or just real estate.
So, like, if one area of the market crashes, you're not totally wiped out.
Exactly. You want to mix stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe even some of those alternative investments we were talking about before.
To balance things out. Got it.
Now, they also talk about how technology is changing the game when it comes to wealth creation.
Oh, yeah. There's so many apps for everything these days.
Right. And for managing your money, those tools can be amazing. They can track your spending, help you make a budget, keep an eye on your investments, even automate your savings.
Wow. It seems like technology makes it way less intimidating.
It does. And one more important principle they highlight is having multiple income streams. It's about not relying on just one job or one source of income.
Oh, yeah. Multiple income streams. I hear that a lot these days. What are some examples?
Well, it could be anything, really. Starting a side hustle, investing in dividend stocks, those stocks that pay you a little bit of money regularly, or even renting out a spare room on Airbnb. Just to give you a few ideas.
So it's about diversifying your income, kind of like how we diversify investments.
Exactly. It gives you more security. Like if you lose your job or something happens with your business, you have other income coming in.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've busted those myths and we've talked about those big principles. Feels like we have a good foundation now.
We're getting there.
So what's next? What's the next step in this deep dive?
Well, now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty, the strategies that can help you put all this into action. Make it real,
Great. I'm ready. Let's get tactical.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so we've laid out those big picture ideas. Now, how about we get into some actual strategies, some practical stuff you can use?
Yes. Actionable steps. That's what I like. Where do we start?
Well, this paper dives into it. Lots of advice you can actually use. Like a good budget is really important.
Oh, yeah. Budget. We hear that all the time.
Right. It's the foundation. And the paper talks about some different methods, like the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it. It's where you divide up your income into different categories.
Right. So the 50-30-20 rule, it says 50% of your after-tax income should go to your needs.
Okay, the essentials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Housing, food, transportation, student loan payments.
Right. Got to pay those loans. Okay, so needs are covered. What about the other 30 and 20%?
All right, so 30% goes to your wants, the things that, bring you joy but aren't absolutely necessary, like eating out, entertainment, hobbies, that new gadget you've been wanting.
Ah, yes, the fun stuff.
Okay, and the last 20%.
That's for savings and investments.
Okay, the important stuff. But honestly, sometimes it feels like there's barely enough for the essentials, let alone 20% for savings. Any tips for making that happen?
The paper really emphasizes making savings a priority. Like, treat it as a non-negotiable expense.
Okay, so pay yourself first. Exactly. Automating your savings can help a lot with that. You set it up so like a chunk of your paycheck goes straight into your savings account every month.
Oh, so you don't even see it.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so budgeting, step one. What else?
Emergency fund. Super important.
Oh, yeah, for when life throws those curveballs.
Exactly. You need that financial cushion to protect you from unexpected things like what if you lose your job or have a big medical bill?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. How much should we aim for, though? In our emergency fund, I mean.
They recommend having 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up, just in case.
In a safe place, right, like a separate account.
Yes. Easy to access, but not something you're dipping into for everyday stuff.
Okay, so we've got budgeting, emergency fund. What about debt? Any advice for actually paying it down?
Yeah, they talk about a couple methods, like the snowball and the avalanche method. Have you heard of those?
I think so, but remind me how they work.
Okay, so the snowball method, it's about focusing on your smallest debts first.
Okay, I kind of remember that.
You pay those off as quickly as possible, while making minimum payments on your other debts.
So you get those quick wins to keep you motivated.
Exactly. And then once you pay off that smallest debt, you take that money and roll it into your next smallest debt. Like a snowball, it gets bigger as it rolls.
I like that visual. Okay, what about the avalanche method?
Avalanche, that's more about minimizing the interest you pay over time. You focus on the debts with the highest interest rates first.
So it's more strategic, less about the emotional side.
Yeah, it's about saving money in the long run. Okay, one more thing before we get to the exciting part.
Investments.
Well, yes, but first, insurance. I know it's not as exciting as, picking stocks, but it's important to have it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But it can be so confusing, right? There are so many different types.
Right. Health insurance, car insurance, life insurance, it's a lot.
So any advice on navigating all of that?
The paper stresses having the right coverage to protect yourself from financial risk. You have to think about your situation. What are your needs?
So like a personalized approach.
Yeah, exactly. Figure out what makes sense for you.
Okay, I'm feeling much more confident about all this. I think I'm ready for the main event now.
Long-term investments.
Bring it on. Okay, we're back. Ready to talk long-term investments.
This is where it gets fun.
I know, right? After all that budgeting and debt talk, it's time to make some money.
Exactly. Let's look at how to grow your wealth over time.
Okay, so where do we begin? What's the first stop on our investment journey?
Well, the paper starts with a classic, the stock market.
Of course.
It's been a proven way to build wealth for, forever.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be good, but it can be kind of scary.
Oh, I totally get that. But historically, the stock market has had pretty good returns.
How good are we talking?
On average, something like 7% to 10% per year.
Wow, that's way better than just leaving your money in a savings account.
Exactly. Now, where to start? The paper recommends index funds and ETFs, exchange-traded funds.
ETFs, okay. Those are better for beginners.
They can be, yeah, because they track whole markets, not just individual stocks.
Oh, so you're not trying to pick the next big winner.
Right. And because they're so diversified, they're usually less risky than individual stocks.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Plus, they're generally pretty cheap, low fees.
Any other tips for navigating the stock market?
The paper talks about this strategy called dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost averaging, what's that?
So it's basically investing a set amount of money at regular intervals.
Okay, like every month.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what the market is doing. It's kind of like buying groceries.
Groceries. Okay, now I'm really confused.
Think about it. Some weeks, avocados are on sale. Other weeks, they're expensive.
Right, but I still buy them.
Exactly. You need to eat. So you buy them regularly even when the price changes. Dollar cost averaging is like that. You buy consistently no matter what the market's doing.
So when the market's down, you're buying more at a lower price?
Exactly. And when it's up, you're buying less at a higher price. It all evens out over time.
I like that. So you don't have to worry so much about timing the market perfectly.
Exactly. It takes the emotion out of it. No more panic selling.
Okay, dollar cost averaging. Got it. Any other stock market strategies?
Oh, yeah. Dividend stocks.
Dividend stocks. Remind me what those are.
They're stocks that pay you a portion of the company's profits, usually every quarter.
Oh, so it's like getting a little bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can even reinvest those dividends to buy more stock, which can really boost your returns over time thanks to compounding.
Ah, compounding again. Okay, what about real estate?
Real estate is great. The paper emphasizes how tangible it is. You can see it, touch it.
Right, it feels more real than stocks sometimes.
It does. And rental properties can give you that passive income, that steady stream of money coming in. Plus, property values usually go up over time.
But being a landlord sounds like a lot of work. Are there any other ways to invest in real estate without all that hassle?
There are. They talk about REITs in the paper, real estate investment trusts.
REITs, okay.
They let you invest in real estate without actually buying properties.
So it's like buying stock in a company that owns real estate.
You got it. It's another way to diversify. Okay, now how about something that feels very far off but is actually really important? Retirement.
Ugh, yeah. I know I should be thinking about it, but it seems so far away.
I hear you, but the paper really stresses starting early.
I know. Time is money and all that.
Exactly. The sooner you start saving, the better.
Okay, so what are the best ways to save for retirement?
401ks and IRAs. Those are the big ones they talk about.
Okay, break those down for me.
So a 401k that's usually offered through your employer. You put money in before taxes, which can save you money now. And a lot of employers will match some of what you put in.
Also, it's like free money.
It is. IRAs are individual retirement accounts. You can open one yourself, even if you have a 401k, through work.
Oh, okay. So I can do both. What's the difference between the types of IRAs?
You've got traditional IRAs where you might get a tax deduction when you contribute. And then there's Roth IRAs, no deduction up front, but your withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Got it. Lots of options. Okay, before we wrap up, what about all the alternative investments? Crypto and stuff like that.
Yeah, the paper mentions some of those. They talk about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, crypto seems so risky, like up one day, down the next.
It can be very volatile, yeah. The paper actually cautions about that. They say it should only be a small part of your portfolio if you invest in it at all.
So not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not. They also mention peer-to-peer lending. You lend money to people directly through online platforms and collectibles too, like art, antiques, rare items.
It sounds like there are so many different ways to invest.
There are. The key is to find what aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance.
Okay, so we've gone over tons of investment options, but I feel like there's one more big piece to this wealth building puzzle. The paper dives into it too.
I think I know what you're talking about. Behavioral finance, right?
Yeah. It's like we don't always make the best financial decisions,
Oh, absolutely. Our emotions can really get in the way.
So how do we deal with that?
The paper talks about fear and greed, Those emotions can really mess things up.
Fear makes you sell at the worst possible time.
Exactly. And greed can make you chase those risky investments, hoping to get rich quick.
So we have to be aware of those emotions and try to not let them control our decisions.
Exactly. Having a good plan and understanding that like the market goes up and down, that can help a lot.
Don't panic.
Right. And the paper also talks about something called lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle inflation, what's that?
It's when you start spending more money as you make more money.
Oh yeah, I've totally been there. I got a raise, I deserve to treat myself.
Right. But then you're not really saving any more than you were before.
So what's the solution?
Think about your savings goals first, before you increase your spending.
Okay, so be mindful of how your spending habits change as you earn more. Make sure your lifestyle matches your goals.
You got it. And the last point the paper makes is about financial literacy. You got to educate yourself about money, how to manage it, how to make smart decisions.
Yeah, knowledge is power, right?
Exactly.
I feel like this deep dive has been so informative. We've covered so much, from those basic money myths all the way to investing and even the psychology of money.
It's been a journey. But the takeaway here is that building wealth, it's not just for some special group of people. It's for anyone who's willing to learn and put in the effort.
It's about taking control of your finances and your future.
Right. And understanding it's a marathon, not a sprint.
I like that. Well, before we wrap up completely, there's something I've been thinking about. This paper focuses a lot on individual wealth, but it made me wonder about the bigger picture. Are there things that make it harder for some people to build wealth than others?
That's a really important point. You're right. It's not always a level playing field. Things like access to good education, affordable housing, even healthcare, those can all have a huge impact on someone's ability to save and invest.
Yeah, those are big factors that are outside of our individual control, right?
Definitely. It raises a whole bunch of other questions that we could probably do a whole other deep dive on.
Exactly. How do we create a system that's more fair for everyone? How do we make sure everybody has a chance to succeed?
Those are big questions, but important ones.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. It's been awesome unpacking all this stuff with you. And I hope our listeners feel more confident about taking control of their money now.
It's been a pleasure. Always a good time talking about this stuff.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for tuning in. We hope you got some great insights and ideas from this deep dive. Remember, building wealth is a journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
That's it for today's episode of Wealth Hustle 247. Be sure to follow, like, comment, and share with others. Keep pushing toward your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode.